Yeah, give me 1 second. Oh, here?
Yeah, this is his chair.
We're gonna have him.
He'll be fine.
I don't care where I sit.
He doesn't care. Come this way. Come this way, Boo. Page 44. এবারে পরিণাম করো। If I die, I do not Vishnu Bhagavan Shyam.
Santi, channel 1. The very bottom.
Bottom left, right?
The bottom left.
How much up?
The 35%.
श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु द्वारा
That's good, right?
श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु दया करो मारे श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु दया करो मोरे तुम बिना कहीं दया हलो जगत संसारे तुम बिना कहीं दया हलो जगत संसारे पतित पावना हेतु भय अवतारा पतित पावना हेतु भय अवतारा समपातिता प्रभु न पाई रे आरा समपातिता प्रभु न पाई रे आरा प्रभु नित्यानंद प्रेमानंद सुखी प्रभु नित्यानंद प्रेमानंद सुखी कृपा पालकन करो ममी बड़ो दुखी चैतन्य प्रभु दया कर मोहरे श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु दया कर मोहरे जगत संसारे दया करो सीतापति अद्वैत दया करो सीतापति अद्वैत चैतन्य प्रभु दया कर मोहरे श्री नित्यानंद प्रभु की जय। प्रेम पुरुषोत्तम सच्चिदानंद श्री गौरांग महाप्रभु की जय। जय गौर शिखनाथ प्रेमानंदे हरि बोल।
Says Bhagavat Maharaj, 10:30. Someone else want to speak? That's right. Maybe Bhagavat want to speak. Maybe want to speak. Yeah, it's just temporary.
Okay.
But we did start
So
late
quick
also.
Mahamudra.
Yeah, of course.
I don't mind speaking, it's just that you're saying it to me. When the Kshatriyas speak, I'll be deaf.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama,
Hare Rama,
take over from here?
Sita. To the mic.
Jai.
Jai.
Hare Krishna.
Haribo.
Jai Nityalila Pravishtam Vishnu Pada Sarasata Sisimat Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki
Jayo.
Jai Nityalila Pravishtam Vishnu Pada Sarasata Sisimat Srila Bhaktivedanta Vaman Goswami Maharaja Ki
Jai.
Jai Nityalila Pravishtam Vishnu Pada Sarasata Sisimat Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayana Goswami Maharaja Ki Go Premanande. So today we're going to be celebrating having an utsava for two giants in the Gaudiya Pantheon. We have a disappearance day and an appearance day at the same time. So, I remember being in India during this entire time when Srila Gurudev was ill. I was in Delhi with him. And then from Delhi, he said, I want to go to Govardhan. I was remembering how he had given a lecture one time about the significance of Srila Prabhupada wanting to go to Govardhan. And how this was an indication that Srila Prabhupada was one of the Nityasiddhas, because that's where the Nityasiddha Leelas take place in Govardhan, where the mix of the Sadhana Siddha and Nityasiddha Leela takes place in Braj. So he was explaining how this Nityasiddha this is an indication that he's a Nityasiddha. So, very significant. He wanted to go to Govardhan. We were there with him in Govardhan, and I was remembering while he was there in Govardhan how came the day, because I was also present in 2004 when Srila Vaman Maharaja left. I was there in Govardhan when that happened. And then when we came to that day, because Srila Trivikram Maharaj had left in 2002 on that day. And then in 2004, Srila... Oh, I thought you were... And then in 2004, Srila Vaman Maharaj left. So it was 2010, and the devotees were worried when this day started to approach. So I remembered how during the day everyone was praying and praying and praying, and that night we were all worried he was going to leave in the night. And the devotees were up all night doing kirtan, praying, Srila Gurudev, please stay, please stay, please stay. And the next morning, then I was at one devotee's house, and while I was there in Bombay, I was talking from time to time with different devotees in Puri, where Srila Gurudev had gone, because he had went to Puri. And in Puri, the devotees were telling me just the day before he left how for so many days he was not eating, he was not drinking, and he kept repeating, why am I still here? This one devotee in particular told me how Srila Gurudev said, he was present when Srila Gurudev said that I wanted to leave, but you all prayed and prayed and prayed that I shouldn't leave. And so I stayed on that day, which we understood what that meant. That day was that day in Kartik when the other two left. So we were having this discussion the night before Srila Vaman Maharaja's appearance day. And then on Srila Vaman Maharaja's appearance day, Srila Gurudev decided that he wanted to leave on the day of his dear friend and intimate eternal associate, Srila Vaman Maharaj. So that was something that I personally experienced when I was there during the past times, and later I'll talk a little bit about how I was present at the Samadhi ceremony, what happened during the Samadhi ceremony in Navadvip, because I flew immediately. But what I wanted to do now, I wanted to give some of the senior devotees an opportunity to speak and glorify their Srila Gurudev. And as we talked about last night, try to focus on the glories of Srila Gurudev, what he brought to the table, the mercy that he gave us, the benedictions that he gave us, the grace that he gave us, the many, many things that he gave us to help us come to a higher platform in our spiritual life. And recognizing those important contributions should be the main gist of our glorification of Srila Gurudev. Who should I start? Stevie, I start with you or with Mom? The guest first. Okay, so I have the distinct honor of introducing my very dear godbrother, who was one of Srila Prabhupada's big warriors. He traveled the entire country distributing Srila Prabhupada's books to all the major libraries and all the universities and colleges in the country. And he did many big services in India also, in helping to organize and manage Bombay Temple and other places like that. So, when Srila Gurudev came around, he immediately understood what was going on. He understood the importance of Srila Gurudev's presence and the mercy that he was distributing, and he got involved right away. And so I'm going to introduce to you my dear godbrother Mahabhuti Prabhu, and he's going to tell you some of the glories of Srila Gurudev. What is, we have a timing thing? Are we going to do this?
So you're actually speaking from 10:30 to 11:15.
Me? I'm
Yeah,
supposed to
you
speak?
got about, yeah.
Oh, I thought all right, I'm supposed to speak first, completely, from 10:30 to 11:15. I wasn't conscious of that. I thought I was supposed to start introducing other people first. Okay. All right. So now I've done this whole introduction, but I've misunderstood the schedule. What time are we at right now? 10 to 11. Okay. Let me tell you about the pastimes at the Samadhi ceremony when we interned Srila Gurudev into the Samadhi. I arrived when he left. They drove him from Puri up to Navadvip, and they drove him up to Navadvip. And I arrived, by the time I arrived, he had already arrived. They had placed him on a slab of ice in the temple room where everyone filed past to take darshan. Final darshan with Srila Gurudev. The next morning, they took Srila Gurudev and they placed him in a palanquin to take him on parikram to Devananda Gaudiya Math so that he could take darshan of Srila Vaman Maharaj and Srila Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Maharaj at their samadhi. Of course, Srila Gurudev exhibited all of the transcendental qualities of a greatly advanced pure devotee when he departed from this world. His body was completely flaccid. There was no rigor mortis. He had no symptoms of the blood draining from his veins and what they call, it's called mottling, where the blood collects and clots in different parts of the body. His skin remained effulgent and smooth and undisturbed by the blood. There was no odor. There was no gangrene on the nails. None of the usual symptoms that take place in an ordinary jiva's departure from this world were on his body. He was decorated with all transcendental symptoms. And when we put him on the palanquin in order to keep him stable, because his head would fall like this, so they tied, he was all decorated. He had sandalwood paste and tilak and everything on his head, and then they tied this cloth around his head, and then they tied it to the back of the chair in the palanquin that they made, so that his head would stay up like this. And tonight, when you come to the program, I have that piece of cloth, which you'll get a chance to put your head on. So, they took him to Devananda Gaudiya Math, where he took darshan of Srila Vaman Maharaj and Srila Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Maharaj. And there was a ceremony. They did arti and they did offerings and everything that are supposed to be done. There's a particular tradition. Srila Gurudev supervised Srila Prabhupada's visit to all the 7 temples of Vrindavan when Srila Prabhupada left. And I had witnessed how in each temple there was this tradition being followed where they would offer arti and different things. And so Srila Gurudev supervised all of that when Prabhupada left. So now that was happening for him. And then After that, they brought him back to the temple, and they undressed him and bathed him and prepared him for the samadhi with a new suit of clothes. It was at that time when they undressed him and bathed him that I was able to get that cloth that was on his head, and I was able to get some garlands, which I hung up to dry, and I also have some flower petals, which are dried, which I can also distribute tonight to the devotees. So these, after bathing him and getting him prepared for the samadhi, while they were in the process of doing that, Madhav Maharaj and Tirtha Maharaj performed all the rituals and wrote all the mantras and everything on Gurudev's chest. And the reason why was because Gurudev's godbrothers, who had asked him to leave the Gaudiya Vedanta Samiti, were waiting in the samadhi to do that in order to say that they were the ones who did it. But they interned him in the samadhi. So Madhav Maharaj made sure that the rituals were performed before we brought him to the samadhi. And then he was placed in the samadhi. And after he was placed in the samadhi, then there was a big an arti and kirtan, and then the devotees started putting the salt. For some reason, there were these bags of salt. Everyone had bags of salt. And Padmanabha Maharaj was in the samadhi at the time. He said he was being pelted with these bags of salt. Anyway, eventually we got enough salt in there to cover Srila Gurudev, and then we started covering him with clay. So it was a very amazing ceremony. Very amazing time for all of us. We were very, very excited and nervous and worried and shaken. There was a lot of mixture of different emotions that we were going through, because for a lot of us, and Padmanabha Maharaj and I were standing there together with Srila Gurudev, and we started crying because we realized that we had been together when Srila Prabhupada left, and we were in the room together. And now we were here with Gurudev. So, we were revisiting this whole scene all over again. So, personally, I owe a lot to Srila Gurudev. Whatever I personally feel that Srila Prabhupada arranged for me to get his association so that I could be extricated from my Grihastha ashram and the life that I was living. One of the first things Gurudev said to me when he met me, he said, "You're a preacher. I don't know what you're doing now, but you're supposed to be preaching." So he had me earmarked from the beginning. And he gradually helped me to see so many things in Krishna consciousness that I hadn't seen before. I used to tell devotees, because I had this experience myself personally, after hearing the pure Hari Katha from Srila Gurudev, when I went back to read Prabhupada's books, which I had already read, all of a sudden they were speaking volumes of new information. And so I used to tell devotees, here's the test. If you're not sure about Gurudev, go read a chapter of the Gita or a chapter of the Bhagavatam, and then go hear Gurudev, and then come back and read the same chapter, and tell me what you experienced. And it was like, people would call me up, I don't understand, Baba. And it's like, I didn't read the chapter at all in the first place. It was a whole new wave of information that came out of the chapter after hearing Narayana Maharaj speak. I mean, just amazing. So many new things just popped out of it. And gradually people who were sincere started to understand the importance of this paradigm, of this conception, that you have to hear from the lips of the pure devotee, that this is what makes the difference, that this is what helps you to get to the next level. As I had spoken last night, Srila Gurudev said, you can get knowledge from reading the books, transcendental knowledge, he said, but the moods of the inhabitants of Braj come from hearing from the lips of the pure devotee. And it's those moods that inspire us to see deeper and deeper meanings in all of the transcendental scriptures. And so I got to understand my Srila Prabhupada so much better by hearing, by associating with, hearing, and serving Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayana Goswami Maharaja. I was never given the opportunity, unfortunately, to see Srila Vaman Maharaj. I never associated with him, so I have absolutely no association with him and nothing that I can refer to, but I had a lot of opportunities to be with Srila Gurudev and to experience his mercy and to see. There's a beautiful pastime one time in Houston, which I saw, where Srila Gurudev was being visited by this man who was a great Brahmin scholar and pandit in Houston, Indian scholar and pandit. And he had come, and Gurudev gave him all kinds of respect. He had them bring out a special comfortable chair for him to sit in, and covered the chair with a cloth, gave him a seat, gave him, water, respect, love. And so the man, he was very famous actually in the Indian community. He had written a Bhagavad Gita, translated and wrote a Bhagavad Gita in English for students in the modern day. This is a very progressive, intellectual pandit. So he sat in front of Srila Gurudev and he said, I've spoken with some of your disciples and they told me that they don't accept Shankaracharya. That Shankaracharya is wrong. And he doesn't know what he's talking about and he doesn't understand the proper philosophy or the proper Siddhanta. And I don't understand how your disciples could come to this conclusion. And Srila Gurudev very calmly, with great affection, said, no, my disciples must have misunderstood. Actually, we consider Shankaracharya to be our guru. So the man came with a lot of ready to fight. Came for battle. And Gurudev just pulled the plug and made it disappear. And he said, really? Shankaracharya is your guru? He said, oh yes, he's our guru. Let me explain to you why we accept him as our guru. So now Gurudev was in control of the whole conversation. And then Gurudev told me, he said, talked about the Gita Mahatmya, that, where Shankaracharya wrote all these verses in glorification of Krishna as the cow herder and the cow. Bhagavad Gita was the milk coming from the cow, and Arjuna was the one who was drinking this milk. And like this, he started talking about that. He talked about Bhaja Govinda Mudamate, about Jagannath Astakam. He talked about all the things where Shankaracharya glorified Krishna. Now he had the opportunity to say all of that in such a way that the man was actually able to digest it and to understand it. And it was a really big opportunity for me to see how Srila Gurudev could adjust the situation in such a way that he was able to capture this man's heart by explaining the glories of Shankaracharya's glorification of Sri Krishna. It's a really powerful teaching moment. One that I'm not always able to follow, to be honest. I've tried. And on occasions, I become combative and argumentative. But having that example in my conscience, having it made such a huge impression, sanskar on me, and I carry it with me to this day. And this is something that's one of the glories of Srila Gurudev, how he was able in his preaching to adjust the situation so that he was able to get across the philosophy according to time, place, and circumstance to the individual. His preaching qualifications were so extraordinary. He was so expert in expressing even the most difficult, complex conceptions of rasa tattva, which are very, very high and very, very difficult to understand for the common man. And yet, in his hands, all of this was made very easy, very simple, and very digestible by everyone. And this is... Okay. Try not to move around too much. Distracting.
They couldn't hear.
People online were saying they couldn't hear very well.
I understand what it is. So, Srila Gurudev gave us an opportunity to understand Srila Prabhupada in a way that we hadn't understood him before. He gave us an opportunity to understand the Siddhanta that was given by Mahaprabhu, to understand Mahaprabhu in a way that we hadn't understood him before, to understand Krishna and Radha in a way that we hadn't understood before, to realize the ultimate goal of Radha Dasyam, which we had no conception of whatsoever in the association of Srila Prabhupada, because it was hidden in a very tiny way in his books. And so there was so much that we learned from Srila Gurudev in his association, and he came at a very powerful and important time. He came at a time when there was confusion in the society of devotees in the Western world. And without going into great detail, Srila Gurudev saved so many devotees from the difficulties that they were facing in Krishna consciousness, because he was providing them with the pure devotional service in his lectures. He would go to different communities and he would lecture, and the devotees would just weep. They would just weep to hear pure, sweet, non-political, totally philosophical, and loving pastimes of Sri Krishna. And he told me one time, he said, I've captured thousands of devotees all over the world by teaching the sweet pastimes of Radha and Krishna. And he did it in such a way that was so digestible and so authentic that we couldn't possibly have received that kind of mercy from anyone else. He was the one. He was the one. He came and he gave us this special mercy. The books that he wrote and produced for us were amazing, and they will not really be appreciated, he said, personally, for 100 years. It'll take time before people will understand the gift that he gave us with all of these beautiful, in-depth scriptures on the rasa tattva of Krishna consciousness. So, today we're gathered to glorify this great personality, Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayana Goswami Maharaj. Someone who in the last end of his life traveled all over the world. He was actually the first person to go into China, not just Hong Kong. Prabhupada had been to Hong Kong, but he went to mainland China, and he preached in mainland China to the Chinese devotees, and hundreds of them came to hear him speak. He traveled everywhere, through all the 7 continents of the world. He had been in South Africa, he had been in South America, Europe numerous times, the United States, Canada, everywhere, India, Malaysia. And the training that he gave to the devotees to prepare them to carry on the mission of Krishna consciousness after he left was invaluable. So we were very fortunate to have the association of Srila Gurudev. We owe a great debt of gratitude to him for everything that he's done, for the fact that he gave up that last part of his life when most people of his qualifications would just remain in Vrindavan and do bhajan. I just posted something on my page recently where Prabhupada was writing to Srila Gurudev when he was in America. And he was saying, I'm here in America, and I have 4 men who are ready to serve me at every given moment. And I have nice places to live, and I have sufficient food and serve everything that I need. He said, but I miss my rooms in Vrindavan. I miss the torn cloth of the Gaudiya Vaishnavas. I miss the simple life and the simple food that we eat in Braj. And so Srila Prabhupada, this sentiment, this was the mood of the Gaudiya Vaishnavas. But both Srila Prabhupada and Srila Gurudev sacrificed that. Srila Gurudev sacrificed it knowing there was going to be a huge difficulty for him traveling all over the world like this and in airplanes at such an advanced age. But he did it. He did it with love, and he taught us this is love. This is what love means. And he gave us, by his example, that mood of love. It was a very special job. It's a very special story I want to tell you in closing. And Srila Gurudev was in Vrindavan. I was in the room with him, and actually it was in Govardhan. We were in Govardhan. And this one devotee had some contentious discussions with Srila Gurudev about some things. And so, in front of a group of us, he went up to Srila Gurudev on his knees, and he offered his obeisances, and he begged Srila Gurudev to forgive him. He said that, I doubted you. And I'm sorry that I doubted you. And I beg you please to forgive me, because if you don't forgive me, then I can't make any more advancement in my spiritual life. And Srila Gurudev showed us at that moment what true humility was. He looked at him and he said, if you doubted me, then there must be some defects in my personality and behavior to cause you to doubt me. So please forgive me for my faults. This was Gurudev's response to this. Demonstrating to everyone in the room, here's how you approach spiritual life with absolute, unmitigated humility. And the devotee began crying. No, I'm the one with the defects. I'm the one with the bad qualities. Gurudev said, I must have had some bad qualities in me that you doubted me. No, I'm the one with the bad qualities. Please forgive me for this. And begging Srila Gurudev like this with great submission, Srila Gurudev placed a garland on the devotee and patted him on the head and said, okay, I forgive you. So this was a very special moment again. It was all these little special teaching moments that I was present for with Gurudev, where he showed us really amazing qualities of a Mahabhagavata on the highest platform. So I want to close out now, and I've already made the introduction. I want to reintroduce you to one of the old lions, my dear God brother, Mahabodhi Prabhu. Jai. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
That's as best we can do. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Om Gyanatmanandasya Gyanandina Salakaya Chaksu Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namane. Namo Vishnupadaya Lalitaye Priyatmane Sisini Bhakti Vedanta Niti Namane. Bhakti Dhamma Sridhara. So first of all, let me offer also my respects to my God brothers and God sisters of Srila Prabhupada, the Frank Parojana Prabhu, Charachandra Prabhu, Nishinga Prabhu, and all of the Gaudiya Vaishnav Matajis or Vaishnavis and Vaishnavas who are in attendance here. We're very fortunate. Srila Gurudev had come here to Miami at least 3 times. He came for a couple festivals and he spent a month here. So this also was a place where Srila Gurudev would come and preach and also restore so many different philosophical and programs that had in attendance here. Unlike Bhagavat Maharaj and Shamarani and Paramparajan, I don't have the same skill sets as they do. But I can tell you something with Gurudev's instructions to me that may be valuable understanding the depth of our Srila Gurudev. I did not want to see Srila Gurudev's ending pastimes, nor did I want to see Srila Prabhupada's ending pastimes. So I was not present when Prabhupada left. And Srila Gurudev, in his last stop in the United States, he was in Orlando in 2010. So we were on this morning walk, and we were fortunate to go on so many morning walks and so many instructions by Srila Gurudev, by Srila Prabhupada's mercy as well. Srila Gurudev told me, and he said, "Are you going to come to India?" And before I even answered, then he looked at me and said, "No, I don't think so. I don't think you will come for many years. So this will be the last time we will talk in this presence." So then Madhav Maharaj and Brajanath, no, this is not possible.
And there were all these objections. Srila Gurudev called me aside. He said, this will be the last time we're going to talk. So, at that point in time, he said some things that are very important. He said, you should try to read and understand the lives of our acharyas. He said, you should understand how they perform their devotional service. And then you should implement them, like I have done in my life, he said, in your life. Then he also said that he will not be coming back to the United States. This is not only was my last time talking, that this will be here. So then he told me, he said, I want you to preach very boldly, without any fear. So, this was a few times. Prabhupada also said that, but also Gurudev told me that a few times. So then he also gave some benedictions. In my devotional life in 1976, Srila Prabhupada gave me the instruction to chant one verse from this Bhagavad Gita, 10:10. Tesam satati yuktinam bhajatam pritipurvakam dadami buddhi yogam tam yenam anupaintada. Every day. Actually, he commanded me to chant it every day. My first seeing of Srila Prabhupada, Srila Gurudev, we had met. Prabhupada introduced us to in the 1970s, way back before, in his room. And this was an interesting thing I've said before, but I don't have much time. But all of the Prabhupada had me clear. I was his guard. I was Prabhupada's guard for 5 years. So he had me clear the room of all of his disciples. And I was the only one left there. And then all of his, he had Krishna Babu, Narayana Maharaj, he had several of the different acharyas. I didn't know who they all were, but they were all either godbrothers or very close friends of Srila Prabhupada. And he had them, and they were all sitting and joking and very, very pleasing, sitting on the same chairs, conversing like godbrothers. And then he had me pull down the notebook that was on, this is in Mayapur, on his shelf, which we had all the reviews from all the different professors all over the United States, all over the world, not just the United States. And then he had me read those, and all of his godbrothers and our said, sadhu, sadhu. And it was such a wonderful sight. So later, as Bhagavat Maharaj was saying, the ISKCON society was falling to pieces due to the offenses and due to the ambitions of many of my godbrothers. They're not following Prabhupada. So I had been praying to Srila Prabhupada because we would having programs in Coral Springs here where hundreds of people would come to our house, literally. So my wife got so upset because everyone having to cook and do everything. She's back there, as you can tell you that. So still, when everything was in dismal disarray, in almost heartfelt sadness, what was going on. And at that time, there was also, it came across listening to tapes where Prabhupada had been seemingly poisoned, and Prabhupada, Srila Gurudev came to Miami, and he had Ishan call and Kriparam call, and they said, please come, please come. And it was the first time I came, I actually heard Prem Prayojana Prabhu speak in the morning, in the evening at Raghunath's house. And it was the first time I ever heard a Westerner who spoke so fluently and so educationally, knowledgeably about our Shastra. So I said, oh my God, if he's a disciple of Srila Narayana Maharaj, what can I expect from Srila Narayana Maharaj? So I had a chance to meet with him. And the first thing Srila Gurudev said, he called me and Isha in and told us that definitely Prabhupada had been poisoned. And they said that he had been poisoned, attempted to poison him in Los Angeles himself. Now, Srila Gurudev, those aren't important things for glorifying Srila Gurudev. But Gurudev had said so many interesting things. When
Was it good in the house?
okay, let's see.
Haribol. So can we have 4 designated people to move each chair?
Oh, it's getting wet.
Fine. And if everyone can grab your own pillow and chair, I think we can gracefully, quickly move inside. Any more umbrellas for our... We can go one by one.